Friends, it is your friend in flowers, Lisa Mason Ziegler. And hey, I hope you guys are having a taste of what we're having here in Virginia. And that is that we had a little taste of spring yesterday, right? And it was delightful, y'all. We went up to 55 degrees. I woke up this morning to 51 degrees. I mean, it feels like it's been forever since it's been that kind of weather, right? So, friends, if we've never met before, my name is Lisa Mason Ziegler, and I'm the owner of the Gardener's Workshop. And we are let's see, what are we? We started out as a small cut flower farm almost 30 years ago that really just hit the ground running. We serve 23 florists, 2 supermarkets, farmers markets, bouquet subscription programs, as well as our well-known members-only on-farm flower market. So we did it for a really long time, and now we're on a real mission to help other people grow cut flowers, whether that is for profit or for pleasure. And so this is Ask a Flower Farmer, and this is your chance to ask any question related to growing flowers, whether it's seed starting or whatever you've got, flower farming business. In Instagram, please, in the bubble with the question mark down below, put your questions in there. That way I don't lose them as the names scroll by. And if you're in TikTok, just put a question mark at the head of your comment and I will scroll back through to find them. So I am just wondering how everybody's cool flower gardens are actually doing. So yesterday, with that really nice day, I took our covers down and I was so pleasantly surprised, y'all. I think we're going to have perhaps the best spring that we have had in years. We're going to have, oh my goodness, I can't just wait for the flowers to start. And so even our questionable crops, which are billy balls, Ami Magus, Carthamus, and dill, those are some cool season hardy annuals that I'm on the edge of being able to fall plant. We fall plant them every year because when they do survive, they do so great, so tall, so abundant, so many more stems. And so far, we are having a great turnout. So, we are heading straight into, we start planting our cool season hardy annual planting, which we call very early spring. That is 6 to 8 weeks before your last average frost, is when we aim to plant another planting of cool season hardy annuals. And that's transplanting. And we have trays and trays and trays of stock and straw flowers and more billy balls and some sweet William. This is really a way to succession plant cool flowers, and it works out really, really well. And so our bed that they're going to be planted in was actually prepared last fall because it's too wet now. I mean, we won't be able to work soil here probably until the 1st of April at the earliest. And because the soil's too wet, do not work wet soil, y'all. That just destroys the structure, and you don't just get it back. And I see people posting the sunflower emoji. Hello. Those are our online course students as well as members of my private flower farmer club. And I just absolutely love when I see that. So cool flowers season is in deep development right now. So our fall planted ones will start being whole weeded and we'll be netting before long. And we're planting the next succession, which is very early spring. And I mainly very early spring plant those cool season hardy annuals that aren't winter hardy in my winter hardiness zone, right? So everybody can plant during the very early spring planting window. And again, that would be transplants that we actually start from seed indoors. All right, so let me just look over here and see if we have any questions. Hey, Kim. All right, so would love for you guys to share this live in your feed right now. That just helps us so much and helps the platforms to show our live to more people. So love when that happens. And so again, in Instagram, I see a question. What is your most difficult crop to handle, but you need it for the market? We don't really grow anything that would fall into that market. Things that are difficult to handle, fragile things, things hard to condition, and we tend to steer away from those types of crops. I mean, when you're a high production grower, as we were for so many years, that's just not in our makeup. And in fact, we would kind of, if I had grown some of those things, when we went into high production, those crops kind of got left behind. And so it's not that they aren't worthy. It's just if they do need special care, that's not something that we often would actually do. So let's see here. What are your best tips for growing campanula from seed? I'm in zone 3B. So Faye, my best tip for, I don't know, I'm assuming, but I shouldn't assume. There's a lot of different varieties of campanula. Some of them are true biennials, and there's only one that I'm aware of. There might be others. That's a true hardy annual. That means the hardy annual ones, if you start them from seed, they don't require a cold treatment. They don't need that long winter to actually bloom the next year. However, even the hardy annual variety, which is Champion, it's called the Champion series, they definitely need day length requirements to not bloom this tall. And so I don't know in zone 3B, first off, I do believe they are winter hardy even where you are. But that would have been something, I would have to go in and reread the Champion requirements, but you have to really get them in the ground, they need some short days to actually bloom properly. But what I was going to say about seed starting, Campanula Champion is one of the seeds that plants that we bought plugs. I did start it from seed for several years. It's hard. You need to get what's called the culture sheet. The companies that produce the seed, and if I'm not mistaken, Pan Am, I think, is who is Champion. That could be wrong. It could be Sataki. Anyway, get the culture sheet for the variety that you have, and it should tell you exactly the steps, the temperatures, and the requirements to get that seed to germinate. And Champion is got, just like Lysianthus, it just has some special requirements that are kind of difficult to provide in a non-greenhouse atmosphere controlled situation. So because of that, and because campanula was such a great crop, even though the deer will eat it to the ground, it was such a beautiful flower that I always had bought plugs from Farmer Bailey, and had them delivered in the fall, and we planted them, and I mean, we had campanula this tall. It is a pretty fabulous, actually cool flower to grow. So I know that's not what you wanted to hear, but you need to find out for the variety you have, you need the culture sheet from the seed producer to find out what it needs. They're just difficult. And again, what variety do you have? Is it a biennial? If you start a biennial now, they're not going to bloom until next spring. Long haul, right? Hey, Brittany. I used worm castings in my soil block mix. Do I still need to fertilize? Yes. So, worm castings, compost, all that stuff is so amazing and so great for your plants. I mean, we love it. And it adds a lot of biology, a lot of living microbes and things in it. But it usually does not provide enough nutrition for what you need for growing seedlings or even for gardens that are hard working. Like, I look at my garden and my seedlings as like a football team. I mean, they eat a lot because they work hard, right? Think about it that way. They need more than the kid that's, not playing in sports. And so fertilizer is imperative, even though I have incredibly fertile soil, well draining, high organic content, because I'm constantly planting and replanting and it's producing flowers, and it draws a lot of energy. So we have to put a lot in. So yes, I would definitely still use fertilizer, even though you used worm castings. And I see that. Thank you, Lisa. Feeling better about my current champion. So it is champion. Well, I just want to say, Faye, you have the right variety, but you need to get that culture sheet. And I would just search engine that champion series culture sheet. And, for people that are growers, you should have culture sheets for every seed pretty much that you're growing. It just gives you the down and dirty, like what temperatures for how long and how to get them to germinate and all that kind of stuff. The seed producers create those. So Faye, I can remember I had good luck one year and then counted on them for the next year and tried to start my own seeds, and it was dismal. And then that was probably when I had been growing for like 10 years. I didn't know anything about plugs, and I don't know how I happened upon, and I was able to actually purchase plugs immediately. I didn't have to pre-order like you do now. And I mean, I had the best stand of campanula. I mean, it's gorgeous stuff, but it's hard to start from seed. So Faye, my hat's off to you for trying, but at least you have the right variety. Hey Lisa, do you have any tips and recommendations, advice for direct sowing zinnias and cosmos? I would love to do soil blocking, but I have zero room. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, by the way. Sure, so you can definitely direct sow. It just is more work, and you start later. And most people don't do well with those two things, me included. I don't want to start later. I want to start early. And I don't want to water every day for 2 to 3 weeks while they're growing up out in the garden. It's just easier when you have them inside. So here's the story on direct sowing. Those are all warm season tender annuals. And so a zinnia and a cosmo germinates at about 75 to 85 degrees soil temperature. Okay. Soil temperature lags behind air temperature. So think about that for a minute. So everybody is very anxious right after our last frost dates to just get their seeds in the ground. We know because people reach out to us all the time. I planted my seeds and nothing sprouted. Well, it's not even warm enough yet for them to sprout. And unfortunately, cool, wet soil rots seeds, right? So my recommendation, if you want to have great success with a stand of plants, is to plant seeds out in the garden no sooner than 2 to 4 weeks after your last frost date. That would mean for me mid-May at the earliest. And because if the soil is cool, they're not going to sprout. Versus I can walk out, my last frost date is mid-April, okay? And I start all of those things from transplants. I could have started those 2 to 3 weeks, which is how long we pre-start in soil blocks, zinnias and cosmos. I could have transplants ready to go in the ground at my last frost date, hoop and cover them, because it's still cool nights. That's kind of pushing the envelope, right? And be weeks ahead. So I started 3 weeks before my last frost date. And so that seed is going to have classically a 5 to 7 week head start on somebody that plants a seed out in the garden. But you can do it. So you plant the seeds once the soil has gotten fairly warm, and then they have to be watered every day. There's a YouTube series. What's it called, sister? Planet Pink? The YouTube thing we did this summer, the comparing transplants to direct sowing, but we went through and showed you the direct sowing. I think if you go to our YouTube channel and search Planet Pink, we did a little test in a 16-foot long bed. And it was a real learning curve for me because we don't direct sow. I mean, I have direct sowed many times, especially in the fall, but never this. And what I learned is that watering, planting the seeds according to instructions, meaning covering it or not covering it, into warm conditions and watering it daily, we got like 100% germination. But it was the watering. And the other thing that I did that made a huge difference that you might also want to think about down in Georgia, because I know you're like us, we grow big bugs and varmints up here that are always messing around in our stuff. I use the insect netting, not row cover. Insect netting doesn't trap the heat for during the summer growing time. I hooped and covered my direct seeded bed because the squirrels would get in there and just root around, and that made a tremendous difference also. So plant later than you think. Plant more seeds than you think. You have to overseed to thin to have a good stand of plants, and then water them. And once they're 3 to 5 inches tall, they're on their own in my garden. I don't know about you, but that works really, really well. All right, I'm looking here. How do you fertilize your rows? I don't have a system set up for the fertilizer to go through my drip tape. Does that mean I need to just use a lot of watering cans? So that's a really great question. So first off, what you're talking, if you do have drip tape, you can get a fairly inexpensive, it's called a fertigator. And there's one called the Easy Flow, which is the most cost-effective one. And I used one for several years. It's got like a little gallon tank and a head on it with some tubes. And you can hook it up to your connections to your drip tape and run it through. You can do that. And another really easy fix thing to do, bypass all of that stuff, is to get a hose sprayer that it's the kind of like hose sprayer that I don't know what they call it. I used to buy a brand called Gilmore Dilamix. And you could pour your fertilizer into the tank that is screwed on this handle, and the water doesn't mix in the bottle. It just sucks a little bit out, so your fertilizer in the tank doesn't get contaminated with water. And then you just set the dial to 1 tablespoon to a gallon or 2 tablespoons to a gallon, and then you could spray. You do not have to use water in cans or buckets. I have also done that. But when you use the hose end sprayer, you can foliar feed if you want to, as well as do a soil drench. So there's a lot of different ways to deliver organic fertilizer to your plants. But the hose sprayer is probably the quickest. You know what I mean? And you soon learn which nozzle to use. You want the one that lets the most stuff out. And the thing that I would remember about doing any above ground fertilization, meaning you're not running it through drip tape down under at the ground level, is if it is a fertilizer that has a fragrance that is not so great, you would never apply that on the foliage or on the buds of the plants. With buds on the plants at all, or definitely anytime, I mean, you need to be weeks away from harvesting because it smells, and that's not what you want on your flowers, right? So that's what I would do, is to try, and you could look up, Gilmore is a very popular hose sprayer. You know, you just screw it on the end of your hose. And Dilamix. I mean, that was the thing. You know what else I used to use that thing for? You know what I learned about that thing? I don't know if y'all knew this, but I used to work at a veterinary hospital for about 15 years. And that was what they put the shampoo in to bathe dogs with. You know how you just go through so much shampoo with really hairy dogs? Well, if you fill that tank with shampoo and then spray the dog, you know, give them a bubble bath with it, it makes the shampoo really go a lot further. Well, it's the same concept with fertilizer. So you can try that out. All right, I'm just looking. Thank you. Great tip on the insect netting. Squirrels wreak havoc. You've convinced me to do the soil blocking. I mean, so it was really interesting, the trial we did for a YouTube series. Nobody was more surprised than me, first off. of what great germination I got. But I pledged and came through. I watered every single day. And you also, if you do happen to watch that series on YouTube, that was also in a raised bed that had all potting mix mixed with compost. It wasn't like out in a garden where weed pressure was really present. Because when you sow seeds out in the garden, in addition to watering every day, you have to cultivate, because those weed seeds will quickly take off and just overtake your planting. There's just really, it's people, and I thought too, think the complete opposite of what it really is. It is so much easier and quicker and faster and more cost effective to start the seeds indoors than it is to direct sow outside. And that's why commercial growers do it, because it's just quicker and easier, you know? And that's what, I mean, especially if you're flower farming. But I really think that home gardeners are just as interested in those very same things, right? Into doing things quicker and easier and for less money, always. All right, friends. So I don't see any other questions. If you have a question, you can post it down in the bubble with the question mark. So let me tell you about what's happening tonight while we're waiting for a question to come. So tonight I do 2 live gardening shows. One of them is at 7 o'clock Eastern time on my YouTube channel. Tonight I am talking about the Rudbeckia family, black-eyed Susans, and y'all, we are not talking about those that grow in the ditch. I grow 9 different Rudbeckias here on my flower farm, and they are key not only for cut flowers, but for native bees. Be talking about all that and how I start them from seed. So that's at 7 p.m. Eastern time on my YouTube channel, but of course you can watch the replay there. And then inside my shop app, which is free, you can find it at your phone's app store. Just search Gardener's Workshop and then grab the shop app, and that's where I'll be at 8 p.m. tonight Eastern time. Doing the same show again, but it's a little bit different setup, and it's a lot of fun. In the live shopping show in the app, the viewers are communicating with each other, and we just really have a lot of fun. So check that out. And so that's tonight. And then Friday inside the shop app, we do our big Valentine's Day show. And that'll be a lot of fun. And so I can't wait tonight. I feel like black-eyed Susans, Rudbeckias, really just, people don't realize, first off, how many different ones there are. You know, green-eyed, brown-eyed, multicolored, so many different ones. And they are such tremendous cut flowers. And also for us, we leave the blooms in our garden, the ones that are, you know, we allow them to go on and rebloom. And our native bee population is off the charts. And it's, I'm sure, I've been told, because of our Rudbeckias. And so join me tonight at 8 p.m. And you can learn more about that. Jenny, my fall planted Monarda lambada is still so small and doesn't look great. I'm in zone 10 and we've had 0 frost and warm temperatures, so wonder if it needs more cool or a little fertilizer. It does not require cool. That's a pretty aggressive grower. It definitely likes cool. I'd give it a little food. Make sure it's wet, you know, it's had some water, but it does not require cold. But I would give it a little meal, maybe just a liquid, dose of some, whatever you use. We love Neptune's Harvest, seaweed fish. And, yeah, so maybe that'll give it what it needs to actually perk up. So if you're in zone 10, and it's just warm temperatures, maybe that's it. Who knows? But once the days start getting a little bit longer and we get some warm weather going on, maybe I'm hoping they'll come around. Do you have top 3 favorite bulk seeds or plugs for non-wholesale? We do not have a wholesale account. Do you have top 3 favorite bulk seeder plug for non-whole? I mean, if you're looking to buy plugs that are available to the public, you know, farmerbaileyplugs.com would be able to help you out with that. All right, my friends, I am going to sign off. And so hope to see you tonight in one of the live gardening shows. And my friends, thanks so much for joining me here today. And until we meet again, friends, ciao.